Here over in Maryland, alongside his wife Priscilla. Lovely, lovely, lovely couple, lovely family out there. And they're joining us today as we chat a little with both of them. Dr. Ayim is Julian's cardiologist, or cardiologist for most of us. Unfortunately, Doc should have been on the program today, but something cropped up at the last minute and he can't be with us. He'll be watching, I'm sure. And if I say anything wrong, or Julian says anything wrong, Ayim will be texting almost immediately. So let's go straight to you. Godisgood. Charlie, how are you feeling right now?
I feel great. Feel great.
And Priscilla, I should have even started with Priscilla, ladies first. Priscilla, how are you? How are you today?
I am feeling well. By God's grace, we're here. We're good. Right. We're good.
That's good. That's good to know. All right. So let's start right from... No, let me tell you a little bit about Julian. As I said, I did go to school with Julian, and although he was a year ahead of me, we shared a chat box. I don't even know how that started. And good old Julian, my watch story, we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later down the line. But let me go back a couple years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago. I know you had started talking about, look, you're eating very well. And I even know the way you eat. You're very particular about what you eat, very particular about the oil Priscilla uses to cook. I mean, you drink more water than anybody I know, eat fruits and everything, eat healthy. Then about, was it 5-6 years ago, you had a heart attack. Was it how long ago?
About 10 years ago.
10 years ago?
About 10, yeah.
And that was a shocker, right? Because you're pretty young.
Yeah, very young. I was early 40s. Early 40s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, it was, one of those things, I think it was more hereditary than anything else. You know, we eat very well, but I have very high cholesterol.
Oh.
So, you know, back then I was not very, you know, I never really went to see the doctors that much, you know. So I'm suspecting that's what happened. Because I remember when I went to see Ayim, you know, he realized that my cholesterol was up the roof. You know, my pressure was crazy, you know, so he tried to tone things down, you know, but, you know, unfortunately, you know, I got my first heart attack then.
Right. And you were in hospital for a while and everything was okay.
Yeah, I was in
hospital
for about 5 days, right?
Yeah,
Or even less than about 5 days, yeah.
Okay.
And then you had a stent put in.
Yeah, and they put a stent in to open the artery.
The arteries. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was 10 years ago.
Right.
And then everything seemed okay. You were back to normal, working normal, traveling up and down between Ghana and here. Actually, you even spend more time in Ghana because you're working there as well.
I was going to Ghana about 6-7 times a year.
Yeah,
a whole lot. And no health concerns. Everything was cool.
Everything was perfect.
And when you're doing your checkups here regularly, right?
You know what? I've got to be honest. I hadn't seen Ayim since 2018.
Yeah.
And he got very upset, right? Because he got very upset because I was traveling so much. I didn't get a chance to see him. And he realized the day at the ER when he was trying to get some EKGs to compare with what had happened. Mm-hmm. And then he realized I hadn't seen him since 2018. So, I mean, he fired me as a patient. You can only imagine a doctor.
You know why my mouth is open? I called yesterday and was upset with me too. I haven't seen him since 2019. So I'm seeing him next week. So
this should be a wake-up call for
it's just a general checkup. But I promise I'll be there. All right. So you had a stent in 10 years ago, living normally, traveling up and down, ignoring him as a doctor. You see him as a friend, as a doctor, because everything seemed okay. And then COVID hit. I remember you ran back on that last flight.
The last flight back to the U.S.
Back here, landed in Puerto Rico, found your way back home to Maryland to be with the family. You just did not want to stay in Ghana at all.
Yeah.
Then everything died down a little bit, and you started traveling again. So you went to Ghana, and then when did you get back?
Actually, this year I've been to Ghana 3 times, and I got back on the 5th of July.
Right before your birthday.
Yeah, so about 5th or 6th of July, yeah.
Okay. Came back, everything cool with family, your sons?
Everything was perfect. You know,
then what happened?
You know, even the day before the heart attack, I went jogging with the kids. We normally do that in the evenings, early mornings or the evenings, depending on what my schedule is like. But that particular eve, I went jogging with them in the evening. We went jogging, came back, watched a movie together, just like a normal day.
Okay. Now, Priscilla, before then, did he seem normal? Did he seem different?
Everything physically seemed normal. We had returned from Atlanta, so the eating habits were, we're eating things that we don't normally eat. We're going to parties, but other than that, physically everything seemed normal. No concerns, nothing.
All right. So you go to bed at what time?
I slept at about maybe 11. Between 10:30, 11.
Okay, Priscilla was already in bed.
Priscilla was already in bed, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then what happens?
And
so do you want me? Okay, so I'm not going to interrupt all your questions, but what I did want to preface it is that this whole experience has been something that God has been in from the beginning to the end. And when I say that, it means that there are things that happen along the way that no one could have foreseen, no one could have planned, nothing. So prior to what all went down, August the 17th, Julian and I had an argument, like many couples do, So we were in the mode of not speaking to each other, everybody's, in their own corner. We're doing the Cold War thing, right? So
how long had you dragged this?
For about a week or 2 weeks, maybe. Okay. Yeah, it was. I mean, and and we have to be honest, because it was about 2 weeks, so it had been a while. Because again, God's hand was in it, so we were both being really stubborn and not speaking to each other in the household. So in the morning, I'll let him take it from here. What he was feeling about 4 a.m., 5 a.m. at that time.
So I woke up at 4:30 with this severe chest pains. And I was wondering what it was. But I remember my first heart attack, I had that uncomfortable heartburn. But it was not as crazy as this time. So I actually came downstairs to drink some water.
Okay.
And I don't drink normal water. I normally drink alkaline water.
Alkaline water, yes.
And I normally don't put ice in it, but for some reason, I wanted ice. So, I put ice in the alkaline water and I was drinking. And then I went back upstairs, laid down for like maybe a minute, less than a minute, and I got back up because it was very uncomfortable, and that's when, Priscilla asked me what's wrong, right? And I said, I have heartburn.
Now, hold on. At that time, you were not talking to him. You really should not give a damn about him going upstairs or downstairs to go drink water.
Exactly.
What made you ask?
Again, God's hand. So I heard him when he got up out of bed. I could feel him, but I'm facing the opposite way again, the not talking thing. And I'm facing the opposite way, and I could feel everything that was going on, not necessarily, and I was forcing myself just not to ask, So, I mean, it was amazing that something so insignificant all of a sudden was thundering. So he's going downstairs to get water. Normally, I mean, under normal circumstances, everybody goes down to get water, not a big deal. But for some reason, every action he was taking that morning was just it was like somebody just poking at me, somebody just doing this. And I remember thinking to myself, let me go back to sleep. We're not speaking, whatever he's doing. But I noticed him get water. I heard the ice going, and I thought to myself that he's putting ice in water. And with the way he's so serious about alkaline water, when you add ice to it, it changes the alkalinity or that kind of thing. But I was still trying to ignore him. So when he came upstairs, again, I'm still pretending to be asleep. And I feel him lay down. But then within maybe a minute or 2 minutes, he gets up and he sits in a futon seat that we have in the bedroom. So then something said to me, Nanajwa Jai Marian, and I'm fancy. And I lost my mom when I was 22, but the voice sounded exactly like hers.
Whoa.
And it was like, stop what you're doing. Something is wrong. So then I got up and then I snapped at him and I said, what's wrong with you? And, mind you, we're not in a good space,
right.
But something was like, something is not right. So he snaps back at me. It's just heartburn. So right now, the funny thing is, we don't know what's coming and we're just, right. So when he said that, I immediately picked up the house phone and he goes, what are you doing? And I said, I'm calling 911. And he's like, what's the big deal? Because he's also irritated with me, with what happened prior. So, he's like, you're making a big deal or something. And I said, you know what? Let me call Aim, because Aim is the one that's going to be able to calm you down. He's your cardiologist. He's your best friend. But I'm calling 911. So I had both phones, the home phone and then my cell phone. Aim on one line. And I said to Aim, Aim, he's having heartburns again. Remember, from 10 years ago, we've learned our lesson. I'm not playing with this one. And Aim said, yes, exactly. Call 911. I said, then speak to your boy because he's getting irritated with me.
So this is about 5 a.m.
Yes, this is about 5 a.m. Yes.
Okay.
So I give the phone to Julian so that he and Aim can talk. And 911 is asking me basically what's going on. Is he upright? Is he able to speak? All the normal questions. And then at this point, our oldest Matthew wakes up and he's like, Mommy, what's going on? What can I do to help? So you can tell he's getting emotional. It's early and there's ruckus going on. So then at that point, 911 comes in. Aim lives right down the street from us. So he came immediately, whatever can be called immediately from the distance he is. So he comes in and he starts talking to the EMTs about Julian's history. And at this time, Julian is still upright and quite annoyed right now because he's thinking, I have heartburn. What are you guys all doing? And this is not necessary. It's drama, that kind of thing.
Julian, so when you were speaking to Aim at that moment, what were you telling? Were you telling him if he was exaggerating, you should be okay?
Yeah, I was just saying that I don't know what this is just a big deal. I'm just a little bit uncomfortable. So Aim just say, you know what, better safe than sorry. Just quickly go, and he's going to be there. So just quickly go to ER. Everything should be fine, and he's going to be there. So I shouldn't worry about it. But he's on his way.
Okay.
So I said, okay, I'll just do it.
Okay. So ambulance comes in. Did you drive following the ambulance, or did they put you in the ambulance?
No, they put me in the ambulance, and Priscilla followed the ambulance.
So by that time you were angry because wifey was on your nerves. You were lying on the stretcher in the ambulance, I
was laying down, and the funny thing is, Aim asked me, "What's the password for your computer?" I said, "My computer has no password. It's face recognition." He goes, "Man, he's this guy. What's wrong with you?"
I wish Aim was here. I've asked him, Aim, what do you need a password for at that moment? Just
give me your password. You don't want to give me your password. Give me a password for your phone. You give me a password for your computer. You give me a password for anything. So now he gets the kid's computer because he was trying to pull the EKG out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, get your record to show the EMT so that they could compare. Yeah.
But your mind was going elsewhere, but you put the password. Like, what do you need?
Password? trying to make trouble for nothing. You're asking me for all these passwords and stuff.
Okay, so you're in the ambulance. You're heading to, where do you go, Columbia?
They took us to Howard County.
Yeah.
Howard General Hospital.
Columbia,
Priscilla is following.
Yeah.
You get there, of course, they'll take you straight up to, what do you call
it?
Emergency room.
Yeah.
So he goes in there, you drive up, you're waiting at the reception?
Yes.
Okay.
You're
not allowed to go in there?
No, I wasn't allowed to go in because their thought was that it's heartburn. They need to basically monitor and just figure out what's happening. So they wanted me to stay. And of course, America, we need your insurance information. You need to register. We need to make sure that he can pay for whatever it is he's going to go through. So I was taking care of those things. So I couldn't see him and I kept asking, is everything okay? And they said, we have a cardiologist, on site that is with him right now. So because we had left the boys at home, I was concerned because they woke up the younger one woke up while all he saw was an ambulance taking Dad away. And the older one with tears in his eyes saying that he doesn't know what's going on. Mom and Dad have left. So they're by themselves.
Okay,
So
can we tell the audience how old are the boys now?
Okay, at that time they were 12 and 13.
Okay, 12
they just
and
turned 13 and 14. So 12 and 13.
12 and 13. They're now 13 and 14, just a few weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah.
A little anxious,
Very,
perception of seeing Dad going in an ambulance.
Not a little, very, very scary.
Not a very pleasant sight at that time. All right, so Julian is in. You're at the reception. You're filling up all the necessary documents.
Yes.
And is Aim there already?
No, I'm calling Aim by phone and giving updates, and he's telling me what questions to ask them.
Okay.
So basically, I ended up just asking them, okay, I'm Julian's wife. How long is this going to take? Mm-hmm. And one of them said, oh, he seems to be doing well, maybe about 20 minutes.
Oh.
So right.
No
so
stress.
Right. So I thought,
Godisgood's a strong boy, 20 minutes.
Exactly, about 20 minutes. So I said,
so you calmed down a little bit at that point.
I did. I was relaxed and ready to give it to him when he came out because it's 5 a.m. We weren't speaking. You made us do all of this. So I'm ready. I'm like, thank you. I said, thank you, Lord. But then I was ready, back in my mode.
Good. So, thank you, Lord, for keeping him safe. I can give it to him when he gets back.
Exactly.
So we can keep fighting. Yeah.
Yeah, like basically, yes.
I'm married to a guy, so I know what that means a little bit. Okay. So then they tell you 20 minutes, everything should be okay.
Yeah, 20 minutes, everything should be fine. Yeah. So I called.
Okay. Does Aim get there within that 20-minute window, or do you get a message before Aim gets there?
No, Aim actually comes after that 20-minute window, because as soon as I got that message, I sit down for about 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden, well, actually, when I was told that he'll be there 20 minutes, I called Aim, and I called the boys first, and I said, Dad is fine, we'll be home in 20 minutes. They're like, okay, great. Then I called Aim next, and I said, oh, Aim, they said he'll be fine. It's going to be 20 minutes, and he said, I'm still going to come because I want to know what caused this type of heartburn that all of a sudden he's awake. So he said, I'm coming anyway. So that's where we were, and everything was good. I put my phone back into my purse and sit down, and within 10 minutes, all I see is a sea of blue. Everybody coming, pointing, saying, that's her, that's her, that's her. And then they come, 2 doctors come, and they say that your husband has just suffered a heart attack and he's flatlined. Yeah. So within that moment, I'm grabbing my purse. They're leading me. They're taking me from the waiting area, and I can't describe what I was just.
Let me break it down a little. So they've come over. They've told you your husband is dead.
Yes.
And usually in these hospitals they'll bring a priest or somebody to follow immediately.
No. At this time, he had flatlined to the point that they are now going to actually try the shocking. Right. So basically, they needed to move him from whichever examination room that he was into the cath lab, which is where they do the operate, and that's where they have all the equipment that they'll use to shock and bring back, resuscitate, and do all kinds of whatever they need to do. So they pulled me from the waiting area, and as I'm going through the back, they're taking me through corridors, and all of a sudden I see like a small siren. It's green and red lights, and Julian is laying on a stretcher in a white sheet and so pale, and one of the doctors said, "Stop! This is his wife," and they said, "Let her see him." So I didn't know what that meant, like say goodbye, like So I just put my hand on his head, and it was cold, and I said, "You're a child of the living God. You're not going anywhere. Matthew and Andrew are waiting for you. You can't do this. You can't do this. And I just started to bawl and start crying for mercy.
Go back a little minute. You put your hand on his head.
On his head.
What?
He was cold. He was cold.
Wow,
he was completely cold. And his eyes were closed, and he had shrunken. Julian, if you look at our height, I barely reach his shoulders, but on that stretcher, normally when he lays down, his foot touches from one end to the other. For some reason, he just looked so tiny, like he had shrunken, and like he was so thin, and it was, and all I could see was his head because they had pulled the sheet up to his head.
So hold on. So at this moment, it's Julian on the stretcher. a bunch of doctors surrounding you. You have no friend. You don't know anybody personally.
No.
Where was Aim?
Aim at this point had not even gotten there. Once they took Julian to the cath lab and I was able to go to the front lobby, that's when I called Aim. And I said, Aim, they said he's flatlined. He had a heart attack. And Aim said, I'm right here. So he was parking. So then he comes in. And this is the first, I had already at least been through that part, but he walks in and he goes straight to the registration desk and says that my brother is back there. He's my patient. And they weren't trying to let him in because they said that, it's not his hospital, and that he was in the role of friend or family member, but they couldn't allow him back there. So, I'm crying. He's also agitated and everything, and I don't know what he says, but the next thing I know, I turn around and Naeem has found his way in there. Whatever Dr. CT did, I don't know.
Okay, so right now you're confused. Your mind is all over the place. You want to scream. You can't really scream because you're in a hospital, but you're born.
I was screaming.
You're screaming?
Oh, I was screaming. When you're in that mode, I don't care who's around.
You just let it go.
Yeah, I was screaming. I was screaming mercy. I was screaming, Father, no. I was screaming, Julian, don't do this. I was screaming. I can't. There was no. Yeah.
Okay, so you're screaming. You're confused. Aim comes in, and then Aim runs to wherever he is now.
Yes.
Now, I wish I could get it from him at this moment. I'm sure, of course, you've spoken to him several times. Yeah. What happened in there when Aim got there and Julian was gone?
No, at this point, while Aim is in there, all I hear from the intercom is code blue, cath lab. So now Aim is back there, but I'm hearing code blue. So I fell on the floor and just started screaming, mercy for Andrew, mercy for Matthew, Father, mercy, not for me, for the boys. You can't do this. You can't do this. The way they love their dad, you can't leave me with these two. What am I going to do? But what Aim later told me was while he was there, he kept pushing them and telling them, shock him, and screaming, shock him, because apparently the amount of times that they shocked Julian, it borders on being illegal, almost inhumane, because they only shock you for a certain amount of time, and about 6 times, and then they call it. Yeah. But had it not been for Aim back there,
how many times was Julian shocked?
About
20 times.
About 20 times. And at that point, when I heard the code blue, about 5 minutes later, they had a chaplain come out. So I look up and there's somebody coming towards me, a very nice lady. But when I looked at her and she was coming, she had her arms held out, and I said, don't touch me. And I told her, don't touch me, because in that moment I felt like if I touched her, I would
have accepted.
Yes, I'm accepting, I'm saying goodbye, and I'm getting whatever condolences. So she said, she got scared because I was hysterical. And she said, okay, I'm not going to touch you. Just come with me to the back.
Okay. So in Howard General Hospital, where you are, the doctors know it's over, code blue.
Yep.
The chaplain has been sent to you to calm you down, to pray for the soul of Julian, because it's over.
Yeah.
But as stubborn as you are and strong in your faith as you are, you said, no, it is not.
Exactly.
Now, at this time, you were still at the reception?
No, at this time, the chaplain had led me to the back. I told her not to touch me. So she basically said, okay, then just follow me. And when I went, they put us in a room, and it wasn't a room that normal folks go into. And I think I was making so much noise out there that they had her come and get her, because people were now coming in for their workday, patients, and there's some woman out there screaming on the floor, speaking tongues, crying out. So they had her pull me. But when I got there, Aim came to me and said, Julian is trying to leave us. And he had Nina on the phone, and Nina had brought in her family, her household, just prayer warriors. And you could just hear it on speaker, and Aim crying. And for me, Aim, when I met Julian, I met Aim. They're inseparable. Mm-hmm. So, and Aim has always been, kind of stoic but loving. He's always in control, very professional. So to see Aim actually, so to see Aim crying, I lost it. Then,
All right. Okay. Let me breathe in a little bit. I mean, I know what the end is like. Seeing Julian is here, we know he survived, but it's the journey is taking me through a little journey.
Yeah.
So, Julian,
mm-hmm.
the last time we talked, you were in the ambulance,
right?
Yes. What do you remember from there? Let's take us through. From the ambulance, you get to the hospital. And then what happened?
I get to the hospital, and they're doing this EKG, they're doing this, they're doing that, and within like 20 minutes, I don't remember anything. I just passed out.
Wow.
Yeah, I just passed out. Next minute, I realized I was out of my body, and I could see my body on the operating table. But honestly, I was very confused. Just looking at my body, and I said, "What is this?"
Mm-hmm.
Now the strange thing is, I never thought of my wife, never thought of my kids, never thought of my house. Like basically, everything about the world was completely canceled. Like I couldn't remember anything. All I was, wow. I just remembered my body, but I was very confused. Now, the strange thing is, all the doctors and nurses in the operating room were very tiny, just like you're in an aeroplane, and you look down and you see all the cars and everything very small. Mm-hmm. That was what I was seeing, but my body was big, but everything else around it was very, very tiny.
And you couldn't feel it. Was it like you were floating? You couldn't feel any pain. You couldn't.
No. You're out of time. You're out of no pain. Actually, very peaceful. It was very peaceful, and it wasn't something I didn't want to come back. I honestly didn't want. I mean, the peace that I had over there, and the funny thing is, the earth was very dark. The earth was very dark, and I didn't really understand. It was not appealing to come.
Right.
So I just looked at my body and I said, I don't really understand it. I'm just going to just go, because there was this beautiful bright light. And it's so funny. My godson asked me last Sunday and said, "Uncle Julian, how did heaven look like? Was it like cloudy?" And until I've not been able to explain. I can see it, but I've not been able to explain how it looked like. Now, definitely, I was not in heaven. I could see the entrance, but I was not in there. You could see the bright light, and I believe once you cross that white light, the bright light, I think that's when you cross into heaven. Right. I'm not too sure, but so I started walking. Well, when I say walking, not walking like a human being, but you're more like a spirit. Walking towards the light, and that's when God stopped me.
Right. Okay. So let me pause a little bit. So suddenly you're somewhere, floating. Right. You see your body down there. You're confused. It's an out of body experience. That's how I put it.
Right.
And it's in a dark area.
Okay? No, it's not dark. The earth is dark.
Earth is dark.
But back there was not dark.
Back there was like bright, and then you start moving towards the light.
Right.
And then you hear a voice, or do you see someone as well?
No. So now God is a bigger version of us. Mm-hmm. So now the way I can explain in my human body is like you're like a wind, right? You're like a wind, and God is a bigger version of that wind. Right? So he just basically just went around me, and I was kind of like inside him.
Oh, so you're like surrounded by the wind.
Yes, and that's how he was able to show me. He just, I'll say maybe squeezed or whatever, and that's where you feel the love that he has for us.
So was it like a welcome home Julian thing, or calm down, son?
No, he just wanted me to know how much he loved us. right?
All right. So what was the first thing? What's the first conversation? What did God say? What was that first?
So now the first thing, I knew immediately that was
Mm-hmm.
God. There was nobody there who's going to introduce me or anything like that. No. I knew immediately that was God. So the first thing I said was that, God, forgive me of all my sins. That was the first thing that came out of my mouth. And then I said to him that if this is what you call death, give me one more chance to make things right with Priscilla and the boys. Now, that's the only time I remembered Priscilla and the boys.
Mm.
And then I said, I know. So now this was more like a demand. I know you have a lot of work for me to do. Tell me what my purpose is, and I'm going to fulfill it. Then he just said, first thing he says, and he always called me son, right? He goes, son, I anoint you. He says, I'm going to make you whole. Then he went ahead and said that I have a very pure heart,
You
and
just
then
had a
he
heart
said,
attack.
sorry?
You just had a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but he's talking of the real heart, not your eating heart. And I think the reason why he said that was, I know all the sins that I have committed before this event, right? And for me to be moving to heaven, I'll be confused if I came back. I'll be very confused. So that's what I think. I think that's why he did mention my heart.
Right.
Then he said to me that all I want from you is to spread your testimony, because your testimony is going to bring a lot of souls to me. He doesn't want me to be a pastor. He doesn't want any of that stuff. And then he said to me, he says, 90% of churches in the world, he's not present.
He's not present. In 90%?
If you see 10 churches, he's only in one.
Wow.
He's not present. He says churches are now a business.
90%.
90.
That's a huge number.
Yes, he says he's not present. And then I asked him that when you're on earth, is that hell? And then once you die, you go to heaven. And he said, son, you will never know what hell looks like, because that was not your path.
Wow.
Okay, so basically, just telling you, they said the earth is so dark because of all the evil that goes on earth.
Wow.
And he just says, son, just go spread your testimony, and that's all I want you to do. Spread your testimony.
And don't benefit.
Right. And then one key thing he also said was that if I choose to spread my testimony through writing books or a movie or whatever it is, if he doesn't want me to I shouldn't benefit even a cent out of that. He says, give everything to the poor, and your Father will take care of you. I don't want you to benefit a penny out of it. So if I write a book and I make $5 million, I'm supposed to give all that money to the poor.
Wow.
And I came to realize that he has a very soft spot for the poor. Because when he showed me the love, he said, this love that I am showing you, I have the same love for the poor, for the madman, for the homeless guy, and then strangely, he said, for the gay guy. Now, why he said that, I have no idea, because I know I'm very homophobic, so I don't know if that's why he just wanted me to know this is how much I love my people.
So you're not homophobic anymore.
No, I mean, I don't agree with certain things, but I'm not homophobic. No, right. And I think God loves everybody. God loves everybody. And now I always say, this is what God said, but we never spoke in English.
Hey, what?
There was nothing like God never spoke to me. God never, it was all a feeling.
Huh.
You see, now, I can't explain it, right? Once God put me back into my body, everything he said to me downloaded into English, right? So,
wow.
So for example, if you were a French guy, I believe everything would download into French. Or if you're Fanti, download in Fanti. But he never said, spoke English to me or not. Nothing like that.
Okay, let me talk about it. I've been saying, I mean, when it first came out, of course, we spoke and all that, and we've had conversations with friends. And I was speaking to a group of friends that were saying, man, you know, Godisgood is very imaginative.
Right.
Are you sure that this thing he's saying is real? Is it that, he had a fight with his wife, and if he gets well, his wife will continue the fight? If he comes up with a creative and imaginative story, that will be forgiven and will see him in a different light.
Right. And so, God knew that something like this was going to happen. So that's why he made my recovery so impossible for even the doctors. Now, think about it this way. There was no blood oxygen to my brain for 10 minutes. What's going to happen? You're supposed to be brain dead, right?
Right.
And that is what the doctors actually told Priscilla. That, you know what? They should let me go, because if I came back, it wouldn't be right. It's more inhumane, trying to keep this guy alive, right? Because I'm not going to be normal.
So the miracle was not just you and your conversation with God. Your miracle was just visible to those down on earth. Well.
He made it so impossible. Now, let me tell you something. Based on, and Priscilla might be able to say better than I did because she was there. Now, once I came back, okay, after 20 shocks and after over 10 minutes, that's what they said they got so it was over 10 minutes. When I came back, before the doctors tried to open the artery that was blocked at Howard County, they couldn't do it. They managed to open it very slightly, but they knew it was going to block in a few minutes. So they had to move me from Howard to Hopkins.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, can you believe when they were about to move, because now time was of the essence, the pilot comes back and says, you know what? The weather is no good. We can't fly.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it took them 2.5 hours to move me from Howard to Hopkins, because they had to get a specialized ambulance
vehicle,
and a team of doctors that were able, because this was not EMT folks. It has to be proper doctors in case anything happened en route, right? So they had to, so I think that's why it took, because I was on lights, on all these machines. So they needed a special ambulance to put me in, right? Now, Priscilla was, in the visual saying that, like, God, what are you doing, right? Because we don't have that much time. But God was trying to make things impossible.
Yeah.
Because they knew there were going to be people like that who were going to say, oh, Julian, I can't believe it. So God said, you know what? You have to explain the medical side of things.
Right. Okay. So whilst he's going through this transition, Priscilla, I'm assuming this is a time when we all thought he was gone, right?
Yeah.
No, you were not there. I was going to say, did you notice when he got back into his body, or what does Aim say?
Yes. So while Aim and I and Nina and everybody, we call it corporate prayer, the boys were at home, joined hands, because I had told them in the midst of everything that just pray for Dad. I didn't tell them how dire the situation was, but I told them pray. So we're all in prayer, and we're praying, speaking in tongues, we're loud. And then all of a sudden, from the room that we were in, I could hear the beep. So while we're praying and screaming, then all of a sudden you heard the boop,
beep, 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 beep. Julie's go wake up.
Exactly. So the doctors came, and then I'm still screaming. I'm on the floor. My head is aching. And then Aim said, he's back. He's back. He's back. So at this point, now they rush us out, because now they have to open the artery. So after all of that drama, they're now going to try and open the artery. So once they opened it, they said that we don't have enough equipment here at Howard because where he is something that they can't handle at Howard. He has to go to the best hospital for cardiac, right. So which was Johns Hopkins. And that's as what he told you, that they wanted to airlift him.
Weather fly to Hopkins, you had to go by
ambulance. So they had me sign paperwork basically saying that I release them of liability because if he doesn't make it in time, because of traffic, if there's a car accident. And I just said, can you just give me the paperwork to sign? Because right now, what you're explaining is taking more time than what this man has.
See, I'm wondering what was in Naeem's mind at that time, because for 10 minutes, you were gone.
Yeah.
No oxygen, nothing. You could have come back, but Julisko, you'd have been a vegetable.
Yeah.
Right.
No, they guaranteed. Yeah.
At this time, everybody is happy that you are back. At the back of their minds, you're thinking something else, but let's get him alive. All right. So now what time is it? You got there at 5 o'clock. Now what time is it right now?
It's about 8 o'clock, almost 8:30, 9 going at this point.
So 3-4 hours.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we can't fly him to Hopkins. We have to go by road. It was raining that day, was it?
Yes, it was. It was cloudy and it had drizzled and it wasn't like a flood of rain, but it was slippery enough that, it was.
Okay.
It
so
still
they get
wasn't
a specialized ambulance. They get the doctors to be in there. What time does he get to Johns Hopkins Hospital?
So, Aim and Nina actually got there first, and I had to my younger brother came to help out. And by the time I'd gotten there, Aim had been there for about an hour. And then once I got there, we waited for a little bit, and it took about 2 hours before they said, okay, patient Sotumi is here, and we're taking him straight to the surgery. And then they came to see Aim, myself, and Nina to give us prognosis and the plan as to what they were going to try to do for him.
But Julian, do you remember when they came there, the doctors were asking, why did you guys bring this?
They were so cold. It was so, and this is the part that, Aim later explained, and I wish he was here. Feel better, Aim. But the way that they came, they were actually almost upset that Julian had been sent there because they were like, you're setting us up for failure.
Yeah, waste of time.
One doctor actually said, this is like opening the hood of a car and not knowing what to expect. I mean, that's how cold and just like distant they were. And, so they were saying to me and Aim, because everything they said, they had to say it to me because I'm the one that could give, I agree, move on, that kind of thing. But thank God for Aim, because everything they said, I would look to him because I didn't understand all the jargon and all the medical terminology. So when they explained certain things, I looked over at Aim and he would give me that makes sense. This is what I would also do. So he was, Aim was my partner then. Julian was not there, but Aim was my partner that day.
At the back of your mind, did you still think maybe we were fighting a losing cause, or were you...
you know what? I honestly, all I could think of was Matthew and Andrew. In all honesty, all I could think was, how am I gonna go back home? And along the way, I never ever told them that this is what the doctors are saying. So they had no clue that we were actually fighting. We were battling life and death. They just knew that, hey, Dad had this 10 years ago. They were so much younger then. But he made it. So with a child's mind, Mom says Dad is in surgery and he's going to be fine. So they didn't know any of that. So all I thought was, God, you're not going to do this. You can't. The way that their relationship is, they're two boys and their dad. There are things that I will never be able to explain to them, even when I try. There are body parts I don't know what to tell you is happening. So Dad can't go.
Julian.
So I didn't lose hope. No.
Right. 20 shocks. Charlie, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, crack ribs and stuff, right? That's what should happen.
No, my ribs were fine. I mean, only the surgery that they had to open.
Yeah, they opened it all out. Yeah.
From Howard General to Hopkins, do you remember anything?
Oh, no, nothing.
You were out again.
But the funny thing is, and God left clues throughout this whole experience. Because when I got to Hopkins, and I believed it was Hopkins, a nurse just opened my eyes and said, who is this? He has glaucoma on his eye.
Oh.
Right? And then I don't remember anything left. But, later you're going to understand why all those things came up,
Yeah.
Okay, so we get to the hospital with his glaucoma in his eyes. It takes 2 hours for them to get to him.
Yeah.
And after that, how long is the procedure?
So actually what they did was first they tried opening the artery, right? And that took like maybe an hour. They came back and said that wasn't successful. Second part was putting in a stent. So each time they would come out and they would speak, I would ask Aim, okay, how's this going? So when they tried to open and it wouldn't work, it was like, okay, no problem. We're going to do the stent. And most likely the stent is going to work. So, I asked Aim and I said, Aim, well, if the stent doesn't work, what's the next thing? And he's like, oh, open heart. But like, basically, we're not going to get there because that's like the last. Right. Exactly. So they go back again. So after trying to open the artery, didn't work. They go for an hour, come back. Okay, it didn't work. We're going to try the stent. So they went back again. And then they came back the third time. And the third time was when that's when I started to panic. That's when I started to panic because they came back and then they said that, look, it didn't work. And where this man is, if he makes it, and this is the doctor speaking to me, if he makes it, he's going to be a vegetable. He is not going, his brain function is probably going to be next to nil. His kidneys he's going to have, basically, he's going to have, basically his quality of life is going to be just next to none. And then your quality of life trying to take care of him, like so basically, So basically I asked him, what's the alternative? And, he was quiet for a while. And then he said, well, in this situation, a lot of people will let their loved ones go because he's been through a lot. So it's basically inhumane that I even asked them to now go open his heart. Because like you said, he's been through all these shocks. They've tried to open his artery. They've been in this man's body, and this man has been through trauma since 5 a.m. So what he's been through, we might actually be the cause of his body might go into shock and he can't take anymore. So while he's talking, all I heard was, again, a voice say that he's going to, like this man standing in front of you, talking, this doctor, he's a puppet. He's a puppet. I've got this. He will be a puppet. So while the doctor was talking, I just remembered, I don't know if those who know Charlie Brown, the cartoon, had a teacher who every time the teacher would speak would go, all he heard was wah, 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 wah. That's all I heard when the surgeon was speaking. And I just kept hearing that voice. And as I'm growing spiritually, I'm knowing that it's the Holy Spirit that was saying you have nothing. And I just kept hearing the word puppet, meaning that somebody else is pulling the strings. So I looked over at Aim because I wanted to look at Aim and ask him, because every time they come, I ask Aim, are we making the right decision? Let's move forward. And at that moment, Aim had turned his head because he also knew, or his medical heart or his medical brain knew that whatever that what the doctors were saying was what was going to come. And I just looked at him and I said, do it. I said, do it. And he said, well, you understand that this, and I said, I understand. I'm telling you, do it. And then that was it.
You approved, you authorized them to go ahead to do the open heart surgery.
Yeah, because they were basically almost trying to push the let him go aspect. And
I told you, even if we went ahead to do this, the Julian who might make it will not be the Julian you know. Yes. You will spend the rest of your life looking after somebody who might not even know who you are.
Yes.
And you still went ahead and said, do it.
Because I heard puppet. Because if I did not hear it, I don't know what, but I heard something say, this man standing in front of you, which was the surgeon who knows everything, is going to be a puppet. And the word puppet, and I keep telling everybody that, look, I'm not one of those. If I had to tell you my background and how stubborn I am and my mouthiness and how, but I heard that voice, puppet, he will be a puppet. And from there was no question. It was like, look, in the morning, I had made up my mind I wasn't going to speak to this man. and something opened my mouth, and I was fighting against. I'll be honest. I was fighting against opening my mouth, and then in this moment, I heard puppet. So those 2 times, it was supernatural. I don't care what anybody says. They can say Priscilla, but honestly, that was it.
Okay, so open heart surgery, how long does that last?
So they told us that it was going to take this. At this point, we were there they started around 4, and they told us that go home because it wouldn't be over until 10 o'clock at night. And so it's about 6 hours, 6 hours. Yeah. So they told me, go ahead and go home and then make sure, basically, when we're done, visiting hours are over. So you won't be let in anyway. And I said, then I'll come before visiting hours and I'll sit, because you can't throw me out once I've made it in. Wow. Yes.
Okay. So now you are out, surgery is going on, your mind is all over the place. And then the phone call comes.
Yes.
It could be a good news call, it could be a bad news call.
Oh.
Dreaded that call.
Yes.
What time did the phone call come?
The phone call came in 2 hours.
Oh.
And so, yes. So, and I had taken the boys I came home and I hadn't seen them all day, and I took them I said, just to keep their minds off of stuff, let's go to a restaurant or something, So we ordered our dinner, and then all of a sudden my phone rings and I see it's Hopkins, and my heart dropped because they had said that this surgery was going to be 6 hours. Now it's like 2 hours later and you're calling. And my first thought was, did he go on the table? Yeah.
And what was the message?
Yeah.
Done?
No, well, what happened was I pick up the phone, and because we were at a restaurant, I actually lose the call.
Oh.
So it's like, seriously, it's like a movie. So I rush back in, and mind you, Matthew and Andrew don't know that, again, this is life or death. They just knew that Dad is going through the surgery, and when he's done, Mom's going to go back. He's, So when I got the call, I ran out of the restaurant, left them in there, trying to, catch the call. And then I came back in because I didn't get the call, and I told them, gather your food, So they said that in that moment that they knew something was wrong, because the way Mom is behaving and the way I drove home from the hospital, because I had a card from the restaurant. I'm sorry. The way I drove from the restaurant, I had a card that the hospital admin had given me to say, call me directly so that we can keep you updated. But I had left it at home. Oh. So I drove, and I was driving erratically, and the boys were just silent because they told me later on that that's when they knew something is very wrong. So I'm tearing up in the car, but I'm trying to pretend everything's fine. And I'm just thinking that Julian's gone.
Of course,
so we
after
get
2 hours?
Yeah, after 2 hours. So I get home and I get the number and I call. And I'm babbling. Hi, I'm calling for Julian. And then she said, excuse me, wait. She goes, he's out of surgery. And I was like, is he alive? And she's like, okay, I just said he's out. I didn't say he's like out, see you, bye. I meant he's out of surgery. So I was elated and everything. So I call Aim, of course. Aim, he's out. Oh my God. The kids start singing praise music. I mean, it was just hoopla. So Aim and Nina come and pick me up. And because Aim said, you can't drive right now. You can't. No. And I said, I'm so excited. He goes, yes, that's the problem. You're not in the state to drive. So then they come and we head out. It's about 8 something now. And we're just tearing down back to Hopkins. Just amazed. God is good.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And recovery for something like that should have taken forever. I mean, Julian, within 7 days, he was almost back to normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I was out of ICU in 5 days.
Yep.
Now in ICU, I was in room number 24. And then once they took all the machines off me, because, before the 5th day, my heart was being, computers were basically controlling. I had a balloon pump,
okay.
And I had a backup pacemaker.
Yeah.
I had a whole bunch of different tubes on my neck, everywhere, all over, but the doctor just came and said, man, he said they didn't understand a lot about this guy. You know, doctors came to ask me, who are you?
Who are you?
Are you a spiritual man? You know, they actually named me, my nickname in ICU was a miracle patient.
Miracle patient.
Yeah. Because nothing made sense
at all.
You know, because I remember when Priscilla came for the first time, when they called Priscilla, when Priscilla came to the hospital, I noticed she was walking to me very cautiously, you know, but I had all these tubes in me. I couldn't really talk, the ventilator, you know, but I wanted to communicate something with her. And because of being anxious, I think I started puking. So the doctors sent her out because they said, you know, it wasn't safe, you know. So once they took the tubes out, you know, then she came, you know, but she walked cautiously to me. And I go, sweetheart, how are you? You know, so she realized, okay, I recognize her. You know, I said, how are the boys? So now she's excited. So she comes to sit by me. She goes, what's 5 times 5? What's 5 times 6?
Now 5 times 5, even in his regular days, Julius go, do you know 5 times 5? Start with 2 plus 2 or something.
Asking me all these questions. So now she plays those games with the kids when we are traveling. So I said, man, today, this is not it. You know, let me tell you about, I met with God. So now once I started telling her I met with God, she says, oh my God, this guy's gone nuts.
Yeah.
You know?
I was like, let me call the doctor. Maybe there's delusional things going on. They said brain injury, you know, so I was like, okay, calm down. Because he was so excited.
You know,
right.
So excited.
Because I wanted to tell her everything about God.
Uh-huh.
You know, so, but then, you know, I
was scared.
Yeah. So now she calls Aim.
Yeah.
And says, Aim, somebody wants to talk to you. So Aim is thinking that the surgeon or somebody wants to, because he normally, so gives the phone to me, and I said, I was going down. Aim was on the floor. Yeah. Wow. He dashed down to Hopkins, and now he comes in there. Now, mind you, only one person can be with me. He comes in and goes, what's your wife's name? What's your son's name? Your first son, your second son. I said, what's wrong with these guys? Are they nuts? You know? So I asked him, I said, oh, by the way, when did you say you were going to Ghana? So that he got excited. I remember that. Yeah. He says, oh, in 2 weeks, but I'm going to cancel my flight till you get better. I said, oh, don't cancel your flight. I'll be out of here within a week and a half. So he said, man, this guy has no clue what's going on with him.
Idea what's going on.
But honestly, at that time, I didn't know what was going on. I didn't even know I had open heart. I didn't know what hospital I was in. You know, I just knew I was like more excited about talking about God than anything.
Right.
So then I spoke to him and I said, you know what? I saw this bright light. I met with God. So him is now quiet in this thing. And I told him, I said, God says he's going to make me whole. You know, but at this point, my heart is completely gone. My kidneys are gone, you know. So he knows it's a long road to recovery.
Road back.
You know, but on the second day, when he came, my heart had moved from 0 to they call this is it injection fraction, cardiac fraction, something, right? Had moved from 0 or 1 to 5. And then when it's 4 point something, that means your heart can work on its own.
On its own.
Mine had gone past that, better than it was even before.
Yeah.
Ejection fraction.
So, injection, that's the injection fraction. You know, so the doctors were wondering, how is that possible? His kidneys are back up working very well. His heart is working well. So the surgeon said, you know, let's just leave the balloon pump in there for a little bit, for a couple of days, because it could only help. Let's leave it in there, you know. And on the 5th day, he says, man, you know what? You just confused me, man. Just take everything off him.
Wow.
Because on the 5th day, everything, they said, you're no more an ICU patient. But now they have to downgrade me to the general area. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But there were no rooms available. Okay. And I think they have either 30 or 60 rooms out there. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. But there were no rooms available. Mm-hmm. And then the next, on the 6th day, they said, oh, there's a room available. They're going to take you. And guess what room number? Room number 7.
7.
Okay. 7 in the Bible means completion. Right? You know, so God was just basically telling that, and I was in room number 24, that I'm with you 24/7, and now I'm completed my mission. What I told you I'll do, I'm done with. I started walking.
Yeah.
Now they said I'll be in ICU for 30 days.
Yeah.
I was out of there in 5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They said I have to be in the hospital for maybe 2 months or something.
Mm-hmm.
I got to now learn how to walk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I was walking on the 7th day. The 6th day, I was walking with a walker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then the 7th day, I was walking without the walker, but the nurse was walking with the walker, in case. And then on the 8th day, I was walking normal, walking up and down the stairs. The doctor said, "Man, you know what? This guy, you're just confusing us. Just get out."
Mm-hmm.
Charlie,
I actually was walking out of the hospital.
Yeah.
When they said, no, you got to be in a wheelchair because they don't want to be liable for anything.
But he could have walked.
I could have came home and walked upstairs.
Yeah.
Man, Julian, there's no doubt this is a second leash of life.
Yes.
Absolutely. I've been getting text messages from some doctors, and it's the same thing. Like, wow, he should be brain dead. This is totally incredible.
Mm-hmm.
This is above medicine. This is something else. Why do you think God gave you this opportunity that He didn't give some of our friends, some of our parents?
I think the key thing is the prayer, right? Now, when I was in the ambulance going, my youngest woke up and he just told me, he didn't get a chance to speak to me. Now, the first thing that both of them did was to hold hands and they were praying. Because that's what Mom has always told you, that you're never by yourself. When Mommy and Daddy are not there, God is with you. So all they knew was that they held hands and started praying. Okay. Now they started praying. Now in the hospital, when Ayim realized that this was beyond medical, he was on his knees in the hospital praying. I hear he prayed so much that they kicked him out of the operating room. Okay. Priscilla was on the ground praying. And most shockingly, Nina was at home. And I wish she was on, should have explained it to you. But funny enough, they were at home and they all, for some reason, everybody came downstairs into the kitchen area. She had some guests from Ghana and Harry was also here. And for whatever reason, they all met in the kitchen at exactly 6 o'clock. Everybody was coming to either drink water or do something. So once the call came from Ayim, they were all on their knees praying. Right? Now, they prayed so much, right? And I think that is also key for me being here, was the prayer, And I think God, like he said, that coming from me, I think he knew that once I talk about my testimony, a lot of souls are going to come to him, right? Because he knew he was going to make it so impossible that doctors, before I left the hospital, 3 nurses had given their lives to Christ.
Wow.
Before I even left because they were all the things that just didn't make sense.
Wow.
I know 2 doctors that were atheists that also gave their lives to Christ. Right. So right from there I knew that this was bigger than me.
You've always been a people person, and if God wanted somebody to reach a lot of people, why not you? Why not you? Because you've had this story. You would tell everybody, even those who don't want to hear. I know Julian will tell them over and over again.
Because to me, it's not a matter of convincing or
just telling.
They're just telling the story.
And those who don't believe it, I know your case, God will have to deal with you specially and try and convince you well. But it's not me.
And you see, another thing that got me when you were speaking is the fact that you said he said you should not monetize it. It's not a matter of Julian opening a friends and family church and making money out of it and your movie and a book and all that. If you were to write a book, it's about you telling the story and letting people believe what happened to you. It's not about you making money out of it. Right. So, this is insane. What's Belinda saying in the background? I'm sorry. I think we've been jumping to conclusion a lot. Somebody keeps asking, people are asking, who is Ayim? Who is Ayim? Can we explain?
Ayim is a cardiologist here in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's somebody that went to Archmotor too.
Mm-hmm.
Ayim Acha Johnson. And I've known him since 11 years old. You know, he was about, when I was in Form 1, he was in Form 5.
Mm-hmm. And let me add a little bit to that. When I moved to Maryland, I've talked several times. When I left Ghana, I left all my music stuff behind. I had no intentions of playing music or anything. When I moved to Maryland, the people who hooked me up with Old School, with Julian and Ayim. Julian had owned a nightclub in not San Francisco.
Yeah, very close to Oakland.
In Oakland, California, had run his own club there before he sold it and moved this way. So he's a music guy, he's a people person, he's a fun person. And God picked him to take him on this journey, tough as it was on Priscilla and the kids. I mean, that tough period has gone by, and look at the smiles. I mean, a couple of months ago, if I was interviewing them, they would not be talking to each other, or they would be faking it.
Yes.
But today, look at that. Have you fought since the heart surgery came back?
I said to her that I'm not going to go to bed angry anymore. So I said to her, the first thing, I'm not going to jump on Instagram, Facebook, nothing until I've said good morning to her, and I've said my prayer. Man, so can you believe what she started doing?
What?
When she wakes up, she'll turn like she's asleep.
As if she's asleep.
Hey, wake up, let me say my good morning. I gotta go.
Well, this is lovely, Julian. Your story is incredible, and I know some people have read it online. It was a joy to listen to the testimony directly from you, and we are very, very, very happy. You look well. You look even better than you were before this whole thing started.
Ayim, I went to do a stress test. He says I was way better than anybody that came there. And he got confused because my heart is now working better than before. My kidneys are at 100%. Wow. I used to be on blood pressure medication. My blood pressure was really very bad.
Yeah.
Right now, my blood pressure is like a 21-year-old. It's like top notch.
Hey, Godisgood, you live to be 100.
I don't take any blood pressure medications. I don't do it. I used to have this glaucoma thing. Is gone. I don't wear glasses anymore. There's so many things.
Wow.
So many things. Yeah. So there are a lot of things. And Ayim said to me that when I came here, I had this confidence that, he was a little bit surprised, and I kept saying, God said He's going to make me whole. So I had not even once did I doubt anything. I felt really good. And I knew I'll be out of there in no time.
Somebody just put on Zoom, when He heals completely.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what He did to you.
Yeah.
Charlie, so what's your message? The message from God to His people.
Number one, God is love.
God is love.
That is key. And also that nobody should depend, Pastor, go and pray for me. But we all have that connection with God. Mm-hmm. We shouldn't depend on, because that's what I used to do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Bought this house. I had to get a pastor to come and pray for the house. We all need to develop that relationship with God. He's one simple God. I don't even know how to look. Simple. He's not complicated at all. I speak to him every night. Very simple.
Of course. General conversation.
General conversations. And sometimes I put certain things to him, right? And I see the results right there and then.
And one thing that Julian also mentioned when he came back was that God already knows what you need before you even ask. So just focus on thanking Him. Right. So you said that, as opposed to, like sitting there and, I need this. He already knows what you need. So the focus should be on constantly just giving Him praise and thanking, as opposed to, I need this house. I need this. It's going to come in all good time. And He already knows it. Right. So you said, focus. And He actually even told me, like, basically, because, when you live with a man that met with God, you're not right ever again.
No.
I can't even give an opinion right now. I feel like, hey, please, what? I'm just joking.
I don't even know what this is. I mean, but I can't imagine, Julian, if I invited you to a party next door, you would come, right?
I went to a
life
party.
hasn't really. Yeah.
Because we human beings, we complicate things. Oh, because you've had this thing, now you cannot drink, you can't do this. No. Everything is in moderation.
Right.
We human beings pull people away from God. We are the cause of it, right? Because we make things so hard, that the average human being cannot really live that kind of way, And God came, Jesus came to die for us, right? So it's almost impossible not to sin. Okay,
right.
You are born a sinner. You don't come and be a sinner. You are born a sinner. So once you come on earth, you're a sinner, right? You cannot live without sin. That's why Jesus Christ came to die for us, right? So all those things are wiped off, But we just complicate things, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, or no. Simple God, calm.
But having a good heart, it doesn't mean just go out there and sin and say,
of course,
I'm good. Right.
That is the key, because one thing you can't do is have a good heart today and a bad heart tomorrow. Right. No. You either have a good heart or a bad heart, but that is what he looks at.
Wow. We are watching, a couple of friends on the Agri House forum, and everybody's saying, "Wow, is this Julisco? Listen to his words. He sounds like a different person." So Georgianda, Metoma, Kojo Brichum, Asala, Ahmed Futa, Ogbami, Anochimes. Everybody's like, "Man, is this the same Julisco?" What should I tell them? Is this the same Julisco? Will you sit down with the boys and eat heavy dew and drink your alkaline water?
Same guy. The only thing that my wife won't allow me to eat oily stuff,
right?
But nothing else changes. The same.
You weren't allowed before. You just decided.
Yeah, he wasn't even allowed to do that before.
He just decided he was going to do as he wished. He wasn't allowed before.
Man, Julian, this is solid. So, triple heart surgery, was it? What was it?
It was just one.
One, okay.
One bypass, yeah.
One
right.
bypass.
And now back to 100%.
Back stronger than before.
Amen.
Stronger than before.
Julian, this evening when we go to bed, we'll all say to God that, God, you picked the right guy to send a message to all of us. Enough respect, man. I'm just happy.
Funny thing is, when I first came, all I thought about was writing a book. That's all I used to think about. But God knew that, look, there are other ways to spread the testimony.
Right.
So guess what he did? He made somebody I have no clue about. I don't know this person. I don't know that's he or she. Wrote my experience and sent it on WhatsApp and went viral. Because I was getting calls about
you,
about me, like, man, what happened? But the person had made. It was fairly accurate, but there were some mistakes in it. So that's what prompted me to write my testimony, to correct it, which apparently also went really viral. A lot of people got it. But I would not have done that not for whoever wrote it. So all I say is thank you for writing that.
But I know as soon as you came out, I spoke to you immediately after you came out, and you said, Fisho, I'm coming on your show to talk about this. I said, yeah, let's do it around Thanksgiving time. I want you to recover. Although Priscilla had said you were fine and all that, I was a little worried. Like,
in 3 weeks, I was at a wedding. Now, that is how strong I was. Ayim calls me after a month, right? And I was walking a mile. He panicked and said, no, don't overstress the heart. Don't push it. So he came to walk with me. And mind you, when he came to walk with me, we walked a mile and a half without knowing, but we're talking. He looked and you checked our Fitbit and said, a mile and a half. So he started checking certain things. He goes, man, you know what? I don't want to deal with you, man, because you just confuse me every time.
Too strong.
So God is good.
Charlie,
God is good. God is good.
I'm just happy. I'm just happy to see the two of you together. I'm just happy to know that everything is well. I mean, even your beard looks even better than it was before you went.
It was before, right?
And this has been amazing. But you know what, Priscilla? Yeah. Thank you too. Thank you for being a praying woman, for the strength, amazing strength behind you to go through the. You didn't just bawl and cry and forget about what is going on and say, God help me, and walked away. No, you walked the walk, you talked the talk, you made the necessary call, you stood strong, you said no when you had to say no. And definitely all this has paid off. So you've been amazing. Thank you so much. And to Dr. Yima, I know you're watching. I hope you're feeling better. It would have been even more fun if you had been on there, because I mean, I would have had we had a different perspective for whatever has been said. But it is clear that we serve a living God.
Serve a living God.
And if you've been 50-50 or in doubt about this is Julisco, man. You know Julian. You know Julian from Cave, from Kitiki, from anywhere. You know Julian from any car store, from any designer store, from any shop. This is a regular dude who has had an opportunity to interact with God.
Yeah. You know what? Before this happened, a little
bit of life after death.
Yeah. Before this happened, I was I was 50-50. I started reading a lot of positive thinking books, reading a lot of Napoleon Hill and all that stuff, So I was thinking that hell and heaven is right on earth, But then now I can really and confirm 100% that I was completely wrong. There is truly a heaven and hell. It's truly a heaven and hell. So nobody should joke with it. It's
shouldn't
real.
Take it for granted.
Don't take it for granted. It's real.
Rule number 1, love your neighbor as yourself, right?
Yeah.
God is love. God is love. Julian, Charlie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm just touched. Thank you, Julian. Julian Sotome is his name. Priscilla Hayford Sotome is her name. And the journey he took was tough for her. But the results of that journey is what he shared with us today. And his goal is only to let us know that we need to be better individuals. Because that light that he saw is ready for all of us at the right time. Julian, thank you so much. The show is music for your quarantine feet. Let me just get over my emotional side and I'll come back with music. Thank you, Julisco. And thank you to each and everyone who's been on watching, listening. Groove FM Accra, My Star Radio, Kofi Jacko and the crew. On Zoom and of course on Facebook. Thank you for staying in touch. Thanks to the Sotomes. think I'm okay to continue now. Julian Sotomi, a walking miracle is what we'll call him. The miracle patient is what they call him over in Johns Hopkins. Man. Did you hear what he said? He said God told him 90% of the churches in this world are fake. That means 1 in every 10 churches around you is correct. 9